When we started working on this collection, we didn't have a clear idea of where we were headed. The title Neverland came to us quite spontaneously, mostly because of everything that was going around. Somehow it's simply, stuck with us. Most of us know Neverland as the island on which Peter Pan grew. But for us it holds a very different meaning. You might not even know who we are or what's happening here. I'm really sorry. We're Emergency Room, a sustainable ready-to-wear brand based in Beirut and Lebanon. When we started working 3 years ago, we decided to show the world that it is possible to build a more sustainable fashion industry. Mainly through the use of upcycling. Depending on who you ask, that can mean a whole range of very different things. But for people who live and work in Lebanon, it can only mean a couple of things. For the past 3 years, we've been working above and through it all to create a brand that can represent and embody ideals. But little did we know, the challenges we'd have to face would be so f***ed up. No planning could have ever softened the blows we've had to endure. Anyway, we decided very early on that we were going to focus on upcycling. Not because we thought it was going to look good, but because it felt relevant and necessary. You see this top? It's made out of old printed t-shirts. And the pants with it? Yeah, that's a printed bedsheet. Of course, we'd love to be able to dream and, tell imaginary stories. It's not that we need to escape though. We just really need to feel anchored in reality. Then again, let's be real. We need to make clothes that people will actually wear. I do realize that that may sound a bit paradoxical. But what matters most is that we're here today. We've made it through and we're showing you our latest collection. As I was saying, we called it Neverland. Not because of its reference to Peter Pan or, fairy tales, but because that term is often associated with childhood, immortality, and escapism. When we think of Neverland, we think of a place that is so magical it cannot possibly exist. But to us it represents a solid heterotopia. Also, an almost dreamlike country, one that, unfortunately, will never be. We initially launched this collection alongside a video, which, if you want to, you can find on Instagram, on our website, on YouTube, and kind of technically everywhere. Do you follow us, by the way? You should. The video starts with the 1971 crowning of Georgina Reze as Miss Universe. which is probably the most iconic moment of Beirut's golden age, and still the visual that's deeply enrooted in our common nostalgia, an image passed on from generation to generation. As you can see on the screen, we decided to make a logo for the collection. It's kind of complicated to explain what it is, but for us it's very obvious. It's a take on an iconic logo, the one of Mercedes. Where we come from, it's associated with wealth and status. But as you can see, we redrew it using bullets, an element that's also unfortunately way too present in our culture. Now these pieces were actually very fun to make. If they look familiar to you, you probably grew up in an Arab country. Because these are traditional bed sheets that you can find in almost every household. We used them to make clothes and then decided to bleach them. As we grew up in Lebanon, we were told the story of a country that is so extraordinary, but with time we kind of realized that it was nothing but a net of lies. That, our parents kind of entertained and exponentiated for us. Through that collection, we aimed to capture the essence and the energy of any conversation that was happening in Beirut at the moment. The socio-economic crisis, the truly slow, post-pandemic remission, and most importantly, the deafening should I stay or should I go, inhabiting the minds of every Lebanese. And as a matter of fact, most of our friends actually ended up leaving. A lot of them are actually sitting here among you. But we stayed there. We stayed because we believe that the grass is not necessarily greener elsewhere. It's simply green wherever you water it. And Lebanon is where we decided to be. Emergency Room started as a brand centered around the community, around the family. All along, we've been working towards building a better tomorrow. This collection is only the natural continuation of our work. It's an answer to a complicated situation. It's a cry of frustration. But it's also and mostly about resistance. Through process, through work, through art, Emergency Room was born in Beirut, and in Beirut it will stay. Because the greatest form of resistance is standing your ground.